Hello and welcome to season 3 of my podcast, Thriving After Trauma. Yes, I have had a name change, an upgrade, and it feels so right. Some of you might be thinking, well, this is the third name you've had in this podcast began. And yes, it is, but that's because I continue to evolve and so should my work. And I feel like there is a story that we carry where once we have one identity that's it for the rest of our life, and that just feels so suffocating to me. So welcome to season 3. I am really excited to be back. In this episode, I'm talking about what I wish I knew when I first started my visionary path. And it's really funny. When I sat down to think about this episode, there is no doubt in my mind that I support visionary humans because there is so much depth to being a visionary. And I'm going to share more about that in episode 175. So watch this space. But I was thinking about I was thinking about this episode and I'm like, I'm not a visionary. Then quickly thought, oh, hang on a second. What are you talking about? Of course you are. But I noticed that even after all of the work I have done, there are still sometimes, often, these little moments where I question or doubt myself. Not doubt, maybe I downplay who I am. I downplay my brilliance, I downplay my path for a number of reasons. Through conditioning, through my inner critic, you name it. And to me, being a visionary is an extraordinary thing. So extraordinary. When I think about it, there is this expansion, this glow. You know, being a visionary means like I am here and this is what I want to be doing and I'm ready. I'm a visionary. I think about everything that I've overcome and achieved, and it is wild. It is so wild, almost unbelievable. So, why do I question it? When I was very little, I was very competitive. Sport was my life. And that competitiveness really supported me in some of my darkest days because it gave me an edge. I'm thankful that I'm not quite so competitive anymore because it was a little bit unhealthy. Let's be fair. My competitiveness was very unhealthy at times, but it has also really supported me. So I don't regret anything about that. I just acknowledge that I'm a little bit different or a lot different to what I used to be. When I was sexually assaulted when I was 15, I suppressed that, right? So I've gone from this life of being a competitor to then having this really traumatic thing happen to me, and I suppressed it because I thought that made me weak. What happened though was that suffering came depression because no one knew. You know, I was suffering in silence. And the only time anyone had a hint of an idea that I wasn't okay was when I wrote my friends a letter in year 11 or 12, I think it was, basically saying that I don't want to be here anymore. They gave it to the school counselor, as good friends would, who gave it to the year level coordinator, who gave it to my dad, because my dad was one of my teachers. And I remember going home and my dad being angry with me, or it felt like he was angry with me. My memory is that he was angry. And he said something along the lines of, what could possibly have happened to make you feel like this? There wasn't a question in there. There was no compassion. It was just an accusation of, how dare you? And I don't think I've ever shared that before. And I remember looking at my mum as I speak about this now and her looking concerned but staying silent. I can't remember how the conversation ended. I think I just walked off and went to my bedroom. And sharing that now is like, wow, if that's what I was met with the first time I expressed myself, of course I didn't tell anyone. And again, this is my memory as an almost 40-year-old person of a 15, 16-year-old, right? So I am sure it was different, but that is my memory. That is my recollection. And by no means am I throwing shade at my parents. I love them both dearly. It's just what happened. You know, it was how they were parented. Then the relationship when I was 21, which was domestic violence, I just kind of soldiered on through that. I was quite detached, extremely unhappy with myself then. But it was only recently that I realized that there was also sexually assault in that as well. It wasn't just emotional, controlling, and abusive behavior, there was sexual assault and stalking. I don't think I realized the impact that had on me until years later. But fast forward, I wanted more for myself. I had always wanted more for myself. And I thought I would get that from reading a book or listening to a podcast. And to a degree, I would. I could always tell, this comes back to sport and competition, I could always tell how I was mentally based on my training. So, my exercise, physical training. And I remember reading two books, No Time for Fear by Paul de Gelder. I'll pop these in the show notes. And How Far Can You Go by John McLean. And being so fucking inspired by their journeys and what they had achieved. I read them and was like, fuck yeah, if that is what they have been through, what is wrong with me? Like, just get your shit sorted and make it happen. Then I remember going to the gym and training, and that week my coach came up to me and was like, you are training so well. It's like, yeah, I'm pumped, I'm ready to go. And he noticed, and I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, I've done it, I've flipped the switch. But I was living on external validation as well at the time. I loved that he saw me, that he saw the change in me in my mental state and how I read these books and it changed my life. But very quickly, as soon as something else went wrong, I reverted back to my old ways, of course. And I was stuck in that loop for so long, of I'm going to make change, I'm going to make change, I'm going to create things, a better life. And I would for a time, something would happen and I'd get pulled right back in. And I just thought, why the fuck is it so hard? Like, I want to change and I'm trying and it's just not working. There was so much I didn't know back then, so much that wasn't spoken about, so many areas of my life that I didn't feel supported in. And when I say that, it's probably because I didn't actually ask for support and I didn't tell anyone what was going on. So, of course, I didn't feel supported. Double-edged sword here. And I know I've shared this a number of times, but I remember going to my psych, who will forever be mine, as kind of a tick the box kind of thing. But 5 minutes into that session, I knew that she was my person. In those 5 minutes, I finally found someone who gave me something I hadn't had, someone that held space for me to truly be me, to give me support in a really holistic way. She said, first, we need to make sure you're okay right now. Then we're going to work through the past and what your experiences have been. And then we're going to work out what you're going to do in the future. And instantly, that weight was lifted off my shoulder. It's like, finally, finally. I knew there was trauma that needed to be dealt with, but the psychs I had seen in the past just didn't. They wouldn't hold space for that and didn't seem to want to go there. And when I look back now, what I wish I knew when I first started my visionary path, when I think about what it is to be a visionary, I think about when I studied to be a coach. That was really the starting point for me. My visionary path started when I chose to become a coach. That was the first time that I had ever really focused on my healing or my learning and leaning into what I wanted for myself and how I could create a better life for myself holistically, internally and externally. Remember, I'd lived my whole life up until this point externally. And don't get me wrong, I had certainly done things that I wanted to do. I had chosen to do a lot of what I had. They were my decisions, but they always felt like there was something missing. It was like I was chasing something and I would achieve that. And that sense of fulfillment just wasn't there. I left recruitment, very good paying job, to join the police force because I was bored. Recruitment bored me. I didn't enjoy it. It paid well, but what's money when you're bored? To me, to some people, great. To me, not here for it. Like, I'm really not. I was just, I was so disconnected. And I see this with all of my clients where they sit there and go, oh, I wish I'd started earlier. Imagine what life would be like if I started earlier. And my response to that is, would you have been ready? A lot of the time, the answer is no, but who knows, right? It's hypothetical and we can't change it. I think the same. Maybe I should have started earlier, but would I have been ready? Would it have worked? Probably not. I didn't realize, and what I wish I knew was just how critical healing and personal development is to being a visionary. And I think it's more than that. It's being open. It's being present. The presence required when you are opening up, when you are healing, and you're going through all of that. But you also need to be willing to see it and accept it, right? And this journey never ends. It really doesn't. And I feel like I'm making this very complicated. Not meant to be. Not meant to be. Healing, yes, is so important. Personal development, yes, is so important. But none of that matters if you aren't present and you aren't prepared to take accountability and acknowledge what's actually happening. For years, I was had a victim mindset. Not really bad, but definitely a victim mindset. I didn't want to take responsibility for my part in things or what I had done because I saw that as being something wrong. If I did something bad or, had a flaw or wasn't perfect, there was something wrong with me. I didn't want to admit my flaws. We're all flawed. We really are. We all have imperfections. We try so hard to be perfect, thinking we should be able to shift and move through things like some software update, something robotic that just happens without a glitch. And that is not the way we work. Every time we go through an evolution, it is messy. It's awkward. It's clunky, right? If someone had have told me that to become a visionary, you have to embrace every season of life. You have to be prepared to work through the hard parts and the trauma and the mess, but also celebrate the good and the magic and the wins and be open to receiving. That gratitude will change your life. That being present is the key to living up to your potential. Whenever you are not present, you're either living in the past or the future. The past, we're so quick to make ourselves wrong or ruminate over. And when we future trip, yes, we can do that in such a powerful way through manifestation and bringing things to life. But sometimes we can make it too scary. Like, whoa, that is too much. Like, this is what I want, but that is too much. Or we can future trip and give ourselves anxiety because we're worried about all of the things that might go wrong, you know? So when I think about this, probably should have been a shorter episode. It's not. Is there any one thing I wish I knew when I started my visionary path? Mainly that it's going to require a shit ton of courage. That you have to believe in yourself over everything else. You have to believe in yourself even when things are going wrong, even when your inner critic is a bitch, you know, through grief, through loss, through trauma, through all of that, you have to believe in yourself because no one else is going to give that to you. No matter how much external validation, praise, or compliments you receive, no one can give you self-confidence. No one can back you. Well, they can, but they can't. They can back you, but if you don't back yourself, nothing's going to change, right? Being a visionary is messy, but it's beautiful. Yes, there are lessons in failure, but also sometimes we just fuck up. It's part of life. I had to leave the police force because of a massive fuck up, a massive failure. I lied about taking drugs, and it seems so ridiculous. And I think back now and be like, I'm like, why the fuck didn't you just tell them? Why the fuck didn't you just tell them about that? But I was so scared to admit my flaws. I was so scared of losing my job that I thought such a minute thing compared to all of the other things that people do, you know, didn't really matter. But that one little thing brought me to my knees, and it needed to happen. The biggest lesson I walk with that is how important honesty and integrity is. And so I claim it. I fucked up and I lied. And I hate that. I hate that that is, one part of my story. And I also think sometimes we need to be brought to our knees. Sometimes we have to have these moments of grief to show us that we have to commit to ourselves, that we have to change. And as a trauma coach, I would love for no one to have to hit that point. But I look back now, and if I hadn't have gone through that, I wouldn't have healed. If I wouldn't have taken the time, I wouldn't have taken the time to work through everything that I had been avoiding. I'd probably be a high-ranking police officer, still shutting down, very masculine, very driven, and very anti-woo-woo, which is everything that I am now. Um, yeah, it wouldn't have happened. And I think about that now, and do I miss the police force? Yeah, I do. But do I miss who I was then? No, not at all. There is an openness when I think about the beauty of life, the beauty of what I have to offer, the beauty of the mess that I've lived through and continue to live through, and the magic of all of it. I thought this was going to be a really quick episode. Clearly not. What do I wish I knew when I started my visionary path? That you have to be present, that you have to have courage, that you have to take radical responsibility for your actions. And you also have to have fun along the way. When we remove fun, we remove joy. And life's hard when there's no joy in it. Life is really hard when there's no joy in it. Because all of the other stuff, the healing, the growth, the personal development, the collaborations, the friendships, don't mean a thing if you don't have the other parts. Friendships, if you're not present, they pass by you and you lose that connection, right? It is courageous work and it is challenging and it can be hard. But I don't know a single person who has chosen this path and really committed to themselves who haven't created and built a life that is so much more fulfilling and rewarding than the one they were living beforehand. Always choose courage. For me, I have to choose courage. I choose joy. I choose freedom and I choose presence. I recently went to a book launch for Kemi Nekfapil, Grounded Success, and she asked what our current season was. My current season is chaos and nurture. And if you know me, you know my life is full of polarity. I have two little kids and it's chaotic. I have to nurture them to help them grow. I think about my business and it has been through a number of seasons. But when I think about my two little boys and running a business at the same time, of course, it's going to be chaotic. But I also need to nurture my business as well because this is my life's work. This is my visionary path. The business I am running, the clients I'm coaching, the stages I'm speaking on, the people I'm writing for, this is what I'm on this earth to do. So I choose to courageously embrace the chaos and nurture and be present through all of it. And I also think that another lesson that I wish I knew when I started this path is I will continually be learning, continually be evolving, and continually be changing. And that gets to be really exciting if we let it. So that's what I choose. What I wish I knew, and also what I continue to choose now. And I would love to know as you listen to this, what are you choosing? What do you wish you knew? Or more so, what do you know now that you believe to be true? And when I say I would love to know, I really would love to know. So if you can send me a DM over on Instagram, my handle is at Jackie, JACI.Rogash. I'll drop the link in the show notes below as well. But welcome back. Welcome back to season 3 of Thriving After Trauma. I am so excited for all of the episodes that are to come because there is so much goodness and so much expansion in what I will be sharing.